Yo, Lord Willin, Jeff Canarsie, Mob Talk Radio. Check it out. Yo, we stay quiet like Russell Buffalino when things will get ugly like Pessi's death in Casino. Who do we know? No one, nobody. But we're all well respected like Della Croce and Gotti. I know wild nights, Havana nocturne. Light up a cigar and watch your spot burn. You'll get patty whacked, I'm tough like Irish dock workers. Rubber guys, what guys, hooligans and block lurkers. Corner berserkers, street savvy soldiers. You owe, you better pay. Don't make me say I told you. Code you don't betray, I say what I mean. Providence and Brooklyn all the way to the Bean. I'd rather be unseen, like Vinny the Chin. I don't gotta go to Vegas to see cities of sin. Pull the pin, drop bombs like Danny Green. I write homicide like the murder machine. Lansky Luciano, mastermind the racket. Up in the clam house with $1 million in my jacket. Move around when the streets get darker. Pay homage to real bosses like Gambino and Patriarcha. Mob talking, but you don't talk to the mob. Lord Will and Jeff Canarsie, we stay on our job. This is Mob Talk, straight from the streets. Mob Talk, the life over beats. Lord Will and Jeff Canarsie, bringing you the real. Kill all rats, you already know the deal. This is Mob Talk, straight from the streets. Mob Talk, the life over beats. Lord Will and Jeff Canarsie, bringing you the real. Kill all rats, you already know the deal. We get illy, tough like South Philly. Got the cold steel, it's about to get chilly. Major figures like Gilly, I'm an outlaw kid Billy. How the fuck am I funny? You'll get slapped silly. Learn from the OGs, respect what you're shown. Real stand-up guys like Sonny Mazzone and Joey Merlino. We bring beef like Gino, steak out at your house with a hidden name Nino. I know the gutter real well. My dudes coming through with that gunpowder smell. If you can't tell, I enjoy hell. G's moving silent, you'll never hear me yell. Stand up guys rise, no disguise, we in the place. Thick ass thieves, nobody is safe. Reality rap, don't test the waters. Code of the streets, you gotta follow orders. Stand up guys rise, no disguise, we in the place. Thick ass thieves, nobody is safe. Reality rap, don't test the waters. Code of the streets, you gotta follow orders. Knock around guys, wise to the Avways, better than most. Even on my bad days, meetings in cafes, strip clubs and bars. At any time it's rock and roll, but we don't have guitars. Fuck fancy cars, I'm low-key in the beat. I know a couple young boys who stay with the heater. Need a chick like Drita, Rob Paul to pay Peter. You couldn't walk in my shoes, not even half a meter. Young Turks, smack off your smirks on what they don't want to see, like a million Jimmy Perks.
And now, it's time for Mob Talk Radio with your host, Jeff Canarsie. And now, it's time for Mob Talk Radio with your host, Jeff Canarsie.
All right, everybody, and welcome to the show. Do me a solid. If you can hit the number 1 to let me know that you hear me, we will begin the show. Oh boy. All right. I'm waiting to see some number 1s to make sure you guys can hear me, and then we'll get, okay, I see a ton of 1s. I'm going to go through the chat just really quick. Hello, Terrell. Hello, Jesse Roth. Hello, Chris. Mob Kings and Infamous Rats, long time, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Well, glad to see you're back on your feet. Jimmy the Gent. Anthony, how are you? Michael, how are you? Raymond, how are you? Pat, how you doing? Barry, yeah, it was a tough game. Thank God for Gorky texting me because I turned the game off, but they won, so we'll take it. We'll take it. K Goody, what's up? Soul Fusion, what's shaking? Frank Ferraro, No Red. Yesnet, hello from the Netherlands. Stacy, how are you? Donald, how are you? Crypto Karach, how are you? Aunt Mike Davis, what's shaking? Jamie, what's shaking? Rebecca, how are you? Melissa, Lower East Side is doing well. Let's see. I think I got just about everybody. I could care less about Tupac and all that nonsense. Let me just keep going through. Timothy, how are you? Let's see. All right, I'm seeing 1s. All right, I'm scrolling down to the bottom. Let's see. Hey, Jeff, what's up? Glad to be here tonight. Finally catching a live few questions. Yeah, we're going to do a lot of questions tonight. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. Maz Boss is in the house. It's been an interesting week. There's been a lot that's happened. We're going to talk about Joey Massino a little bit. And we're going to talk about Matteo Denaro a little bit. I'm not doing biographies or anything like that tonight. I just kind of wanted to make some reference points. And past all that, it's kind of an open forum. I'm sure you guys will fill me in on all the juicy gossip that's going on. There's a couple of things I've seen in the last 2 days I'm really not a fan of, on YouTube, but what people do is what people do. I conduct myself a little differently than most people. I just, once again, go back to don't put guys in murders they're not even remotely involved in. And that's all I can say. And I think, when you're using allegations like it's alleged, I mean, it is what it is. An allegation is an allegation. And I think if you say it's an allegation, then, you're at least doing your job. I can't complain about that. But knowing things the way that I know things, I think there's a couple of people that have been accused of stuff they didn't do. It at least had no involvement in, but that's just the genre. That's kind of how it goes. You know what I mean? So as far as Joey Massino, I don't really have a lot really anything good to say about him. I mean, the guy suffered when he died. I mean, we know that now. Per somebody I know that knows his family said all his organs were failing. He was in bad shape. And that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles when it comes to Joey Massino. Joey Massino was a very powerful guy. And at one point, believe it or not, John Gotti was going to try to kill him. John Gotti had surreptitiously, sort of behind the scenes, was dealing with Sal Vitale. And Vitale wanted to take over the crime family. And when Massino really became sort of into his height of power and he shut down all the social clubs and whatever else, once Gotti realized he no longer could control Joey Massino or his power, he wanted to move against him as well as the Colombos. We know that. That's just history. And one of the things that Gotti did was he plotted with Sal Vitale to kill Joey Massino. Now, how accurate is that? I wasn't there. Does it surprise me? Absolutely not. And there was one of the things I wanted to show Let me just pull this up really quick because I think it's sort of imperative to what I say all the time. And people can disagree with me all day long. I have no problem with anybody that has an opinion that is opposite of mine. I just have a problem when people distort facts. And that's what my issue is. So Messina said, and this was when he was testifying, I don't need to be a boss. I don't need the life. But I want you to go down, excuse me, to this in order to get him to talk. Okay, it's right here. In order to get him to talk, he stretched the truth. In other words, he lied. He told defense attorneys admitting to what he said on the tapes were outright lies. And he said that to try to get Vinny Basciano put in jail. And it worked. So once again, to the people that say informants don't lie, what is that? It's a lie. And that's just my point, because I get real tired of hearing people saying, well, they don't lie, they tell the truth. Well, there's no reason for them to tell the truth. And if he's admitting under oath that he lied, this is just one sample of 50,000 I could bring up when it comes to informants. They absolutely lie. And it is what it is. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to like get nasty about it. I'm showing you facts, because people that will tell you they don't lie don't want to show stuff like that. Okay. So I want to show you this too, because we talked a little bit about this the last time we were on the show. And then I'll get to the comments, because I know you guys are asking questions and stuff like that. So remember when we talked about Andrangheta and the stranglehold that they have on Italy? What I'm about to show you, every little single name, every little pinpoint you see on this map is a different clan. Andrangheta is different than Cosa Nostra because Cosa Nostra is families. Andrangheta are small little splinter cells of clans. Just to show you. And this is just in the Calabria region. Look at this. Each one of these little dots, okay? Each one of these little dots represents a different crime family. And each one of these little dots are 150 made guys. Does that not show you the sheer volume of how big Andrangheta is? And this is just in this region. It's just in this region alone. We're not talking worldwide. Each one of these dots is 150 people. Does that tell you the worldwide, or at least in Italy from that perspective, how big they are? And one of the reasons why I wanted to show this was because to make a reference point to, I feel like I'm giving a fucking college dissertation today. The reason why I brought that up was to sort of bring up this. Okay. Matteo Denaro, dead, 61 years old. And here's something that's very interesting about the time period that we sort of live in. And listen, anybody, I have got 5 or 6 people trying to jump in to be on the show right now. I'm not going to let anybody on for just a couple of minutes, because I just want to get through this. If you look historically, okay, that's Matteo Denaro. All right. I want to bring up, did I save a picture of my favorite guy? I sure did. Hold on one second. Once we get through this, we'll open it up, everybody. I just want to. All right, this is Toto Riina. Now, you're living in a very interesting time period, because between Bernardo Provenzano, Toto Riina, who's on the screen, and Matteo Denaro, these are guys that could push buttons and get things done in other countries. What the American mob has never been able to sort of accomplish is worldwide sort of domination. Toto Riina had guys killed in New Jersey. Bernardo Provenzano could push one finger and have people killed in any country he wanted. In fact, they actually put a lot of murders on him that took place in Germany. Same thing with Toto Riina. So we're living in a time period, especially right now, where the last of the Mohicans, so to speak, not that I want to use that word in any stretch of the fucking imagination when it comes to these guys, but really the last of the last is dead. And it's an odd thing, because what you're going to see now, at least structurally, in Italy, is guys are going to start checking for position. But at the same time, I relatively think that once Denaro was arrested, I think there were already things in place for somebody else to take over. In the way that organized crime operates, especially in Italy, is completely different than it is here in the United States. But you guys have all lived through a very interesting time period, because we have seen Riina die, we've seen Denaro die, we've seen Provenzano get arrested, and those three guys just alone, the amount of power they had was staggering, beyond staggering. And American Cosa Nostra has never really had that power. They never really have. They've never truly had that power. So it's interesting. It's interesting. Denaro, also known as Diabolic, once got caught on a wiretap saying he had more bodies than cemeteries. But once again, it's sort of a systematic thing too. Like if you look at Riina was living in his hometown, Corleone. He never left. He didn't need, I mean, he would move from place to place, but for the most part, he was still living in the same town he grew up in. And for 30 or 20 some, I think it was like 23, 24 years, they were looking for him and couldn't find him. And he was right there in the middle of it. And it shows you the power that he had of fear and intimidation of the people that lived in his community. They refused to dime him out. Now, in the case of Matteo Denaro, he went missing in the 90s. He was hiding out too, but guess what? He was staying right basically where Riina was, in his own community. And people wouldn't dime him out. Now, eventually, Denaro was dimed out. And that's how they found him at the cancer ward. That's how they were able to start sort of clocking him. But in comparison to Andromeda, excuse me, Andromeda is a worldwide thing. A lot of people took umbrance when I said that the Rizzutos were worldwide. They don't have that many members, but they did. They were worldwide. They weren't just in Canada. Their power base was Canada, but they were in Argentina. They were in Spain. You name it, that's where they were. So it's been an interesting week. As far as Joey Massino goes, I think that had Joey Massino not gone bad, he would have been the most powerful boss in the United States, hands down. Guy was a smart guy. Can't take that away from him. But at the end of the day, you know, he rolls and sort of kind of did what he did, you know, and that's the way it is. So, all right, as far as the meet and greet, it is going to be on November 4th, Saturday, beginning at 11 a.m. and we'll go through Sunday to about 11 or 12. Okay. Now, I know a lot of you have emailed the show and a lot of you have actually tried paying and all of that kind of good stuff. And I understand that. But the reason why I had to hold off was there were still some final sort of touches I needed to take care of. I can announce that Boston Andy is going to be in attendance for this event. Just today, actually, I got a couple of calls from some people who want to go. So those are additional people, which is great. Here's the deal. I'm just going to be straight up about it. It's $500. Okay. And more or less, you get to sleep, spend the night. We're going to have stuff catered. We're going to go out to a restaurant Saturday night. Ma's boss will be in the house making fresh mozzarella, music, and we're going to have some giveaways. I don't know why this thing is, what am I doing here? All right, there we go. Yeah, this is weird shadow. It's fucking obnoxious. Anyway, see what I mean? It's like over here on this side, like, all right. So what we're going to do is we're also going to do some giveaways that night. We're going to have a little trivia, do some giveaways. We're also going to be doing a live event that night as well, direct from the house. So we'll do a YouTube live and you guys that are there will be able to come on and we're going to have a good time. And we've got some surprises in store that I don't want to tell everybody right now just because I don't want to ruin it. So if any of you are interested in that, we begin accepting payments on Tuesday. For that, you got to pay through PayPal. And once you do that, we will give you the house address and sort of give you the itinerary and all of that stuff. So a lot of people emailed the show and said they wanted to do it. And like anything else, you get 50 emails from people, maybe 10 people actually do it. So if you are interested in attending, it's going to be first come, first serve type of thing. So once we reach the magic number that we need to get to, we're going to close out the list. Okay. So if you are interested in attending, what I need you to do, and for those of you that were expecting me to call, I didn't yet, but like I said, if you've already sent a previous email, because I sent an email to about, I don't know, probably 30 people. Some of those people I see in the chat, some of the people I don't see in the chat. Uh, Here's the deal. Come Tuesday, we're accepting payments. First come, first serve. Once we reach a number, we're going to close it out. For anybody in the tri-state area who wants to attend the meet and greet, just wants to come hang out for the afternoon, just shoot me an email at mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com, and I'll explain how that's all going to work. But we really want this to be an all-inclusive event. We had thought originally about taking some field trips, but we're not going to do that because I think, the house is so beautiful, so just big and expansive. The weather's cooling off. I think it would be fun just to kind of hang out and do our thing. So if you don't want to be on a camera, I completely understand that, and you don't have to be a part of that. But a part of doing this is promotion as well. So if you're serious about doing this, Tuesday, we're going to open the floodgates at like 11 o'clock in the morning. And once we get to our limit, that's going to be it. Like I said, we've got 40, 50 people on this list. And the thing is like, it's unfortunate because I'd love to take all 50 people, but we just can't. Room does not allow for that. So if you're really serious about doing it, I suggest get off your horse and take care of it on Tuesday, or at least send me an email and let me know what's going on. And for anybody else that just wants to come for the afternoon, send an email, mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com, and we'll get it going. Boston Andy is looking forward to you know what? I should call him. You want to call him? You guys want to put a 1 in the chat if you want me to call Boston Andy really quick. And then I'll get to your comments, I promise. Let me see. Just I'll verify that he's coming. He doesn't know I'm calling, so God knows he could say fucking everything, anything. Hold on. He's not going to pick up. This is what
802
prick. All right. He'll probably call me back during the show. In either case, he is going to be there, and he's going to tell some stories that I probably would prefer he wouldn't. But this is going to be a, excuse me, this is going to be a highly selective event. So we're going to allow Andy to tell some stories that are probably not very flattering about me, but that's okay. It's all about ball busting. So I'm going to go through the chat a little bit. Let's see. I don't watch football unless I'm betting, and there's money to be made. You sound like Gorky. You sound just like Gorky. Good God, I hate allergies. No, I'm not a cokehead, but they'll make videos saying I'm a cokehead now. Is it true that Joey Massino put a hit out on John Gotti Jr.? I don't know. I have no idea. That's not the first time I've heard that, but honestly, I don't know. You have the best podcast. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I try to do my thing. I try to stay away from the salacious stuff, but everybody has their own rhythm and rhyme of how they do things. And, Johnny says Joey Massino was in Texas for a while. Yeah, he was in Texas and living in Ohio and Florida at one point. He was all over the place. Jeff and Chris, what do you think of all the rats want Joey Merlino in their show? Well, that's never going to happen. And I listen, I don't speak for Joey. I never have, but I will in this case. And I can tell you certifiably 100%, he is not going to go on any show as a rat, and he will not work, talk to, or go on anybody's show who's platformed rats. He's not going to do it. So Nadu's little wet dream got flushed down the shitter. And you know what? Let me go here. I wasn't going to say nothing, but he said on his show the other night that the only reason why I'm back on YouTube is because I don't make any money. And that's the most ludicrous, asinine thing. I mean, he still hasn't answered the fight video. He doesn't want to do that. But no, I'm not on YouTube. I'm not here to make money. I'm here to just chat with all you guys. I'm the only person, the only one, who has a paid podcast. Tell me one other person who does. I'd love to see them try that. See how well they do. Just my opinion, nothing else. How about Joey Merlino's podcast is actually pretty good. He talked about Rat Crazy Philly and Eddie. Well, I can tell you this. Let me see how I want to say this. I think informants are in for a rude awakening. I have tried to honestly stay away from the Joey Merlino conversation just because he's doing his thing. I do my thing, but I can tell you certifiably that you should subscribe to his podcast. You should watch it, judge for yourself. And I think Gene Morello is about to have a really fucking bad time coming up. There are certain things that you just shouldn't do when you're a rat. And Gene Morello, for those that know and those don't know, took to Instagram and threatened to slap Joey and all kinds of stupid shit. And it's like, of course he's ballsy and stupid because he's protected by the feds. You know, that's what they do. That's what they all do. And now you got John A-Light running around saying he got the contract to whack Joey. It's the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. And there's a story I could tell about how petrified he is of that guy. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to get into all of that. And I'm still like going nuts. Hold on. This fucking thing driving me fucking nuts. But yeah, now everybody's coming out the woodwork saying they know him, they talked to him, they hung out with him, they got the contract. It's all nonsense. And what you need to realize is these rats that are floundering now and have no story anymore are going to make and invent shit now because Joey's doing huge numbers. So now they all want the numbers. So of course, now they're all going to invent, and said they're all going to say stupid shit like, oh, I held his dick when he pissed in the fucking urinal. I mean, that's what they're going to say. That's just the way they are. Nope, never seen it, but I heard it was fantastic. College has too many rules. Yeah, I'd get thrown out for swearing. I would put Rafael Cutolo up there with Totorino and Bernardo Provenzano. Yeah, absolutely. K Goody, thank you very much for the donation. I appreciate it. Let's see. I heard from good sources Naples Mafia runs Acapulco. Absolutely. They've been there from day one. Let's see. Did Joe the Boss and Salvatore Maranzano have as much power? No, absolutely not. Not even close. Okie dokie. Let's see. Joe, how are you? All right. Scrolling down, guys. Scrolling down. Shit, I wish I lived in Jersey again. I don't know. Does anybody want to live in Jersey? I don't. Of course, who knows? Was Joe Colombo's son and Cosa Nostra is just a book? A lot of his story is bullshit. He had an HBO show. You guys know that. I don't know if you guys know that. It was back in the 90s. He did like a, oh man, this. Now, can you hear me? Can you guys hear me now? Can you guys hear me? Press 1. Fuck. I'm waiting to see a 1. Can you guys hear me? Yes? No? Okay, you guys can hear me? All right, let me go back up to these comments. So no, if you go to YouTube and type in Columbo on HBO show, guy's a complete jerk off, was a nobody. But you know what? That's sometimes people chase nobodies, Let's see. Merlino has that mouth twitch. Many mob guys do that. Yeah. Joey's upper lip doesn't move. I always laugh about that. Johnny, welcome to the show. Also, I have an announcement to make. Let me address this first. Who are the first pioneers? I'm the first one to ever do this. The first one. Nobody else was doing this before me. Nobody. Now everybody does it. Tommy Stiggs, you're muted. Muted, lost sounds. Gina's nothing. Okay. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. All right. Let me scroll down. Oh, fuck. Is it true that Angelo Lutz only had 70,000 to his name when he got arrested? I also would put a fork in. Oh God, no. Listen. Let me tell you something. There's no way and Joey can break my balls about this if he wants. There is absolutely 0% chance I would ever eat a pork chop with motherfucking beans on top of it. I don't understand what that's all about. Maybe it tastes good, but me, nah, not going to happen. No way, no chance, no form, never gonna fucking happen. So the other thing I wanted to sort of announce, just so some of you guys know, we are going to start doing members only podcasts, or excuse me, lives. The reason for that is I'm tired of the bullshit on YouTube. And so we're going to probably start doing lives from membership only. It's just the way it's going to be, because I'm tired of people stealing my material, for one. And I think that it's just going to be the way to go. But we're going to do a couple of more of these lives before I figure out, exactly what we're going to do. But I think we're going to start moving to membership only. So, but no, I believe I was the first one to come across and do this. Nobody, that's the other thing too. And it's not a gloating thing, but let me just say this to you. Okay. Well, let me not maybe. So the way to say this, I've really been the only one who's ever attacked informants. Nobody else did it. I did it for almost a decade on my own. Nobody else did it. Nobody else. And they all kind of act now like they're this big, new, trendy thing. And it's not a trendy thing. It's been around for a while. I think it just gets more amplified now because there's a lot more people doing it. Yeah, Jason, I got your email. I'm gonna email you that tonight, Jason, and get it to you. I haven't been ignoring you. There were certain things that I had to kind of do. So what's going on in the YouTube world? Have I missed anything other than something that I saw today that I wasn't too happy about? But it is what it is. Listen, people are going to do what they're going to do. I just kind of carry myself a certain way. And I don't have time or room for crazy accusations or whatever. I was going to play a Nadeau video tonight, but I think I'm just going to, leave the guy alone. Hold on a second. Okay, somebody's claiming that they're blocked, but they were unblocked on the show a week ago. So, I don't know what to tell you. If you got blocked again, then I don't know what the hell's happening, because I don't have many wrenches in the chat tonight anyway. So, anyway, Gorky, you want to come on for a few minutes and shoot the shit? I'm going to drop the link, and we can chop it up a little bit. Like I said, I didn't come on here a lot tonight to do a whole bunch of different stuff. I just it's more about what you guys are thinking about, as far as organized crime history and stuff like that. There's some other announcements that are going to be coming, I think, next week about my show and some other stuff like that. But for now, we're just going to kind of keep that very, 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 very quiet. If Tommy Karate wasn't in jail, I wonder what he would have to say about guys like Sammy the Bull. I'm sure they're aware of it. I mean, put it this way. There's a guy that's in jail right now that knows what's going on, and they don't have access to the internet other than to send email and shit like that. What's going on, Chris?
Hey, what's up, man?
Nothing. It's been a hell of a day.
Yeah, no, I mean, another calm, relaxing weekend for you today, I see.
Yeah. Please do me a favor. Like and share and donate if you can. We're going to bring on Anthony Manzano. You ready for this? I don't know who this guy is. He might be showing his pecker. I'm not sure. Because there's a first for everything, right? And I got to be the only guy that's. And the sad part is. No, I have no fucking idea who half these. Okay, I see his face. So he looks like he's prepared. He's got glasses on. Looks distinguished. Looks like he needs to shave, but that's all right. Let's go. What's shaking, Anthony? How are you?
Hey, fellas. John and Chris. Jeff and Chris. I don't know why I said John. I was reading a book, and this guy was a high-ranking mob boss, and he was saying that the reason why you see more rats more than ever now is because these young mobsters don't have respect for omerta. Like that, they're out for themselves and stuff. Do you agree with that, or
I would
agree
say
with that sentiment,
that,
or
no, I would agree. I think the gene pool is definitely different.
Yeah,
100%.
I would agree too. I don't think the newer guys have the same respect and the honor that the old guys did. And that's in life too, not just the mob. Like just old school people were different than people today. So I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I would.
And Jeff, you were talking about Dragna. Why didn't you see a lot of Dragna clans in the United States like you saw like in other places around the world and stuff like that?
I don't know. I wish I had an answer for you, but I just don't. I'm not really sure. I think that everything just kind of, it seems to me like, and you look at organized crime as a whole, at least historically, it seems like where one group goes, the other goes right behind. It seems like they kind of follow each other around, and why that hasn't happened, I'm not really sure.
And do you think there's ever going to be like a guy like Phil, these guys like Persico? Like, is there anybody in this generation of the bosses, like younger generation, you think that are going to in the La Cosa Nostra that are going to have that much power? Like,
I think there's 3 right now that do. Yeah, absolutely.
Like at the same level as Carmine Persico in them.
Yeah. There's at least one. Absolutely.
Oh, you can't give him his. I was going to ask you his name.
Oh, no. I'm not going to do that. But I think there's one that 100% is. But it's like anything else. I mean, it ebb and flow to everything. But yeah, I think there's at least 1 or 2 that have the acumen and have been around since the 80s and 90s and 70s that can do that. But I think it just comes down to what, if you can't control unions and you can't control construction, then what's really at your hands? Yeah. Extortion, loan sharking, and drugs.
What's crazy, they could go into what is it called, the athletics, but you can't do that now because of the government legalizing gambling. So it really doesn't make a difference. They can't really make any difference.
On the gambling front, it does, because here's the thing. They can legalize cockroach racing, but if somebody has to pay the casinos to do that, then the mob is still valuable because you can bet on credit, and casinos are never going to give you credit. That's why that's never going to get killed. It's never going to end.
Oh, you think because of the
degenerate gamblers, they could take money out, like they could have the money fronted to them. They don't have the money. They don't have to have the money up front to bet on the streets, as opposed to, with a gambling site.
No, that's what I'm talking about. That's where they could move into, because there's not really, with the gambling sites, there's not really a ton of like, what's it called? There's not a ton of laws that govern those gambling sites as much as the casinos.
Well, a lot of the gambling sites too are offshore. They're in Costa Rica. They're in places that the money can be to be funneled. Let me read this comment really quick. What do you think about Gene Morello talking about Joey Merlino? I bet he wouldn't say that to Joey's face. No, he wouldn't. A lot of people wouldn't say a lot of things to somebody's face. Gene is a telephone tough guy. He always has been. I mean, let's just be honest. In the grand scheme of things of being a gangster or a street guy, listen, I couldn't tell you in all of my years of knowing different people, I never met somebody that broke into houses for a living. you know?
Yeah. No, so back to the Androgynous thing that you're asking why they never came to America. Didn't you say like one of the reasons was they're afraid of RICO laws? Like,
I mean, the laws are too. So the reason why they would want to move here to begin with would be more money. But right now they're the wealthiest organized crime, allegedly the wealthiest organized crime faction in the world. And with RICO laws being what they are, why come here and risk all of that for just a couple of nickels and pennies? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't do it.
Well, technically, the billionaires are basically the mob.
Right.
The billionaires that run this country are the mob without doing illegal things like that. I hope I'm not offending anybody or anything like that when I say that.
No,
not at all.
It is rich people run the world. It is what it is. But I have a question about Andromeda with all those clans. You know how you say it's all blood members. You can't be accepted if you're not an actual blood member.
Right.
So does that mean all Andromeda members worldwide are related by blood, or is it just the clans?
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy, man.
That's a lot of fucking.
You know,
that's a lot of people banging.
Listen, I asked him that question once, kind of joking around, but half serious on his Q&A. A lot of, cousin fucking must be going on, but
let's see, who wins a fight between Sammy the Bull or John Vesey? Jojo the Whale or Ron Previty? Oh God, I think Jojo the Whale
would kick the crap out of Gravano. I think he's probably
Vesey
younger,
would kill Gravano in about 3 seconds. I don't even think that's close.
It would be Jojo the Whale versus John. Then who wins that fight?
Ooh, I don't know. I have no clue.
I don't know that one, man.
Clue.
And I noticed with some of these nicknames, I read somewhere where these nicknames were created behind some of these people's backs, and half of these mobsters wouldn't say it to their faces and stuff like that. I think Jojo the Whale, was that a nickname was he a big guy? Is that why they called him Jojo the Whale, or was it one of these mob names that didn't fit the actual description of the person?
I think that's a double pun.
Jojo the Whale?
Yeah, it's a double pun.
Yeah, it's like tiny for a big guy, or skinny for a fat guy.
Right, or being a whale, having a lot of money to play with. High stakes stuff.
Oh
yeah.
Somebody says Rod Previty or Angelo Lutz. Oh God, you guys are all going to get me in trouble with Angelo.
Setting you up tonight, man.
Huh?
You're really getting set up tonight for some questions.
Oh, yeah. I got one. How about Carmine versus Joe? The guy who was the last head of the Gambino family before. I forgot his name now. It was
if it's somebody current, Jeff's not going to speak on that. But
no, previous, like previous generation.
Previous to who?
Before the 70s.
Oh,
Carlo Gambino.
Yeah, Carlo versus Carmine.
Persico?
Oh God, Carmine Persico would kill him.
Yeah, Carmine Persico would kill him.
Yeah, Carmine Persico was actually his first murder. He killed somebody in a street fight at 17. I think he stabbed him.
I read his book briefly. Yeah, that's crazy.
I think that's
because I heard Carlo was crazy too. That's why I asked that question.
Well, yeah, you raise a good point.
Was tough with his hands,
well, no, he raises a good point because Carlo in Sicily was a completely different beast. So I don't know in their primes. I don't know.
Mean, it's one thing to be tough in the form of a mob guy that will go out and kill you. But if you're talking about just a regular fist fight between two people, I would go with Persico. But I don't know what Carlo was like younger either. Maybe he was a tough guy when he was younger. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they said there was rumors that he actually killed someone by strangling them with their bare hands. I'm not sure if this was just like to make Carlo bigger than he actually was. And stuff like that.
Let's see. Any books you can recommend? Havana Nocturne. That's what I was going to say. Havana Nocturne, The Westies, The Five Families by Selwyn Rabb. Really anything that TJ English writes is really on the mark. Scott Deitch is also a fantastic writer. Who I would not read is Anastasia, and I would not read Scott Bernstein to save my fucking life. That's just the truth. That's just the truth.
Yeah,
Because
it is.
listen, when it comes to this genre, there are people that understand it and people that regurgitate headlines. And there's a big difference between a headline and the actual facts of the case, and Scott has had a habit of not saying things that are very true and knowing they're
or
not
exaggerating
true.
it for sales.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, if you're not standing in a room, you don't really know, but your acumen and knowing people and knowing the situation, growing up a certain kind of way will dictate how relative that is. But, my issue with Scott, it really just goes back to he wrote an article that was completely lie filled. And I told him it was, and I told him why, and he didn't care. And that's the problem. You have to do due diligence. And that's why I always say when you're going to talk about a situation, be it in the 80s, be it in the 90s, make sure that you're, and I'll give you a great reference point to this, as much as I don't kind of want to talk about it. I thought that James Proctor, Lee Cole and James Proctor, if you haven't watched anything that they've done, please go check out their show. I thought one of the things that James said was, listen, these are just allegations. Nobody was convicted of anything. And that's the way you need to play it. And I think that's just the responsibility factor. I mean, I can tell you certifiably that names that were mentioned in that, it's not accurate at all. Not that I was there, not that I would know, but I just think when you say allegations, no convictions, then really nobody can get angry at you, because all you're really doing is regurgitating what the FBI made claims of. And believe me, and here's my point. If the FBI was so 100% positive on everything, there would have been a conviction for that. And you would have seen 25 fucking people fucking arrested. Johnny, what are you doing? Going once? Going
Johnny,
twice?
you're on.
Gone. All right, we tried.
Yeah,
we can try it.
And honestly, Chris, the guy I want to see a movie done about, which I don't think can be done correctly, would be Persico, but I don't think anybody can play him correctly. Like, there's no actor that can play Persico correctly. You think?
No, I don't think so.
Or Gambino or something.
Hey,
like
Jeff,
that.
can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now, Johnny. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
How are you?
Doing good, man. Just relaxing, watching some football. Oh, some highlights at least. Just chilling.
What game are you watching?
Watched the Bills today, so we did pretty good.
You a
The
Bill
Bills
fan?
When did they?
Bills fan.
Yeah, they
yes,
won
sir.
big. Killed them. Killed them.
No, I'm a Dolphins fan. I hated that game.
Oh man.
You'll be all right.
No,
Tua stays healthy, you'll be all right.
Yeah, man. We got lucky today. I'm not gonna lie. Didn't think we were gonna take Miami.
Hey, Chris, can you take over for a second? Like,
Yeah,
just
go ahead.
Because I gotta check one thing, because this guy's
yeah.
my rod about something.
So, Johnny, you're from Texas. You're a Bills fan, and you're a Dolphins fan. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And surprisingly, I'm also a Yankees fan. Go figure.
Well, did you live up in the Northeast at all, or?
No, man. Actually, my dad, they're all from like Louisiana, but we moved to Texas when we were young, and I think like the Yankees used to come to like Louisiana or something for spring training or something like that.
Oh, I never heard of that. Maybe
back in the day, like super long ago or something. He just was like a super Yankee fan, and so I just caught on to it when I was younger, and then just growing up, I just kind of stayed with the New York teams.
Yeah. No, that's a good team to follow, I guess. The Yankees AAA system is like not far from where I live, only about a half hour away. But I don't go to any games. I'm not a big baseball fan, but whatever. But what kind of mob stuff you guys like? Who are some of your like favorite bosses or whatever? Anthony, I think yours is Persico, it seems.
Yeah, Persico and Luciano are my top two.
All right. What about you, Johnny?
Man, that's a good question. It kind of depends on the era, I would say, because like if you think about a lot of the like old timers, it's like a different caliber, Like
absolutely.
yeah,
probably talking.
when you compare Yeah, when you compare like guys like the Chin, um, people, like his former boss, Genovese, all those guys, they just seem like a different type of breed compared to like people nowadays. It just seem like kind of like stepping stones, or they don't have like such as a big name as they used to. But then
Right.
again, it's kind of watered down.
Yeah,
Surveillance
no,
state. That's why the mob is not as big. They can't get away with what they used to get away with with the FBI, with the
oh
surveillance
crap.
technology the FBI and CIA have. They can't get away with what they used to. Chris.
Yeah, it's definitely not as easy. The technology, the feds, all that, they're just too strong anymore. But it would have been interesting to see how those guys would have been bosses today. They still would have tried to be low key, but
One guy
one
I
quick
want to see how he would have lasted was Santo Jr.
yeah, he was a good boss. Jeff says
It's
like
kind of funny that they were named Trafficante, and they were kind of known for trafficking drugs. That was just kind of ironic to me always.
well, I saw a documentary, and you never know what's true or not. And I think it was about Trafficante's lawyer. Was it Regano or whatever, Frank Regano, I think. And when Trafficante got arrested in Cuba, and they let other mob guys go, they, from what his lawyer said, and I know you can't trust everything, because he had the name Trafficante, they thought that meant he was trafficking in drugs.
Wow.
Like in Cuba, and again, like I'm saying, I know that sounds stupid. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I heard on a documentary, that Trafficante, I don't know if maybe he thought it was part of his nickname or he just took that name, but they equated that to taking trafficking drugs. That's one of the reasons they kept them.
No, and the reason why the mob kept them alive is because they're the only ones that could speak Spanish, and that's how they got all those connections in Cuba and the Caribbean countries, because no other mob boss, none of the mob bosses up in New York or Philly, they didn't want to learn Spanish. They were too stubborn in their ways to learn another language and stuff
Well,
like that.
I don't think they were looking to ever kill Trafficante like otherwise. You know what I mean? I don't think speaking Spanish was something that he had to do that to stay alive.
I'm not saying they wanted to kill him. I'm saying if it wasn't for Trafficante, they wouldn't have the connections in Florida that they did and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I understand. I thought you said and maybe I misheard you. I thought you said one of the reasons they didn't kill him was because he spoke Spanish. But if I misheard you, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that would be a stupid reason to kill somebody.
I apologize.
But I heard rumor, like there's stories that people have gotten killed for stupider stuff in the mob, like.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Man,
all right, sorry about that, guys. Down Neck Newark, if you're listening to the show, I had you unblocked on everything, but I noticed that there were 4 different Down Neck Newark. So how many profiles do you have? Like if you've got more than one YouTube profile, there's an issue. You know what I mean? So I've unblocked them all. So I mean, I've unblocked every Down Neck Newark. So you should be able to come in here in the chat, because I deleted all of it. So there was 4 different Down Neck Newarks. So like I thought I had clicked the wrong one, because I guess he's trying to come in the chat. So we'll see.
Yeah,
and Jeff, why when we were just talking about mob bosses when you were trying to fix that issue, why is it that no one talks about Carlos Marcello a lot? Like they don't give him enough as
he's big down here in Texas, or he was at least.
He doesn't get enough respect by like mob historians and stuff like that. Is it because he doesn't have his?
I think a lot of that's because they don't invest the time and do research to understand how powerful he was.
Down here in the South.
Yeah. If I may, sorry, Jeff, I don't mean to interrupt you or anything. one thing I did learn from Texas, being like a huge mob fan and everything, it's just like, Texas, we're not really known for anything big or anything regarding, like the Italian mob or anything. But now that you mentioned Carlos Marcello, it's crazy how much influence he had over here because all the little syndicates that would set up here, like in Galveston, Dallas, they were all little like captains or something, like, subdivisions, all from Carlos Marcello. Like,
Right.
back in the day, they used to call it the Free State of Galveston or
Yep.
something like that. Like, yeah. And, you had the Maceo family, which like they called it down here like the first Las Vegas back in like the 20s, the 30s.
Yep.
And, and it's kind of crazy that family kind of is like the original family that now like the Fertitta family that used to own the UFC.
Right.
They're like the billionaires and everything, that their money kind of originated, from mob money, to say.
Yeah,
I didn't know.
kind of
Wow,
crazy.
that's
Believe it or
surprising.
not, when I was down in Louisiana, I met with somebody that was related to Carlos Marcello. So it's a lot of the thing what you guys never hear, and I don't talk about it often, but if you look historically at organized crime, a lot of these guys didn't want their kids involved, didn't want their grandkids involved. And when you look at things like Lineage, with just being from Italian lineage, the amount of success stories of Italians is beyond the scope. Unfortunately, like a lot of the kids now are like lawyers and doctors and scholars and stuff like that. Nobody ever wants to say that, but they want to focus more on the seedier side of it. I mean, if you look at the Profacis, I mean, they're completely legitimate now. I mean, they own Cola Vita olive oil, one of the biggest olive oils in the world. And so you often don't hear that sort of side of the story, but Texas always gets overskipped, I think, because, everybody wants to focus on the Fab Five in New York. And I think people are missing out because I think guys in other areas, Russell Buffalino, another one, guys don't talk about him very often. And a part of that is because people don't want to do research, number one. And number two, they buy these fucking books from authors who distort the reality of what it is to begin with. So, it's like Sam Carolla. People don't talk about him, very often. It's just, and I think a lot of people have a tendency of looking at Carlos Marcello as a decadal type of boss, where he's really popular and infamous in the 60s. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
One thing that I always attempt to do is discuss guys that you've never heard about. And I don't do that publicly because over on the paid podcast, that's sort of where we discuss those things. And that's why I kind of laugh when people say, oh, all they do is talk about the same, same people. And we definitely don't do that over here.
And Jeff, another person they don't talk to about is the guy who Santos Sr. took over from in Florida. The guy who was they always. Did you guys ever watch that History Channel show on the Traficantes, where at the end they were talking about that he was apparently involved in some way with the assassination of the Kennedys and stuff like that?
Yeah, we covered the whole entire, 18 episodes of the Kennedys or some crazy shit we did. Yeah.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but I forgot the guy's name. He was in a big mob war with the guy, the Jewish guy that was in Tampa. The Tampa mob or whatever. I forgot his name now.
Are you talking about Meyer Lansky?
No. Cole. Joe Cole or whatever. I forgot, Henry Cole or something like that. He's famous that because he owns his family. His family ended up becoming legitimate. They own the big steakhouses down here, like the.
What time frame are you referring to?
The 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, like that area, when the Traficantes became big. When, oh my God, damn it! I forgot what the name of the guy was. I have to mute myself. I'm trying to remember the guy's name, Jeff. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah,
One quick little fact that I also learned about Texas or anything was that Nicky Scarfo Jr. You know how he was like, he got moved and made over there in New York
Yep.
with the Lucchese's and everything. Yeah,
Yep.
he actually caught a case from like a city right outside of Dallas, Texas, I believe. Something
Oh
for
yeah,
like
and that
defrauding,
financial scams. Yeah.
yeah, like an insurance scam or something like that down here.
Yeah. He got a ton of
Yeah,
time for that too. A
yeah,
ton.
that's what I think that really got him right.
Yeah, that pretty much. But I'll tell you something, and this kind of surprised me, is Nicky Scarfer Jr. One of the reasons alleged for whatever happened was he was abusive towards women, and guys didn't want to tolerate that too. He had ideas of trying to take over for himself. We know how that kind of ended. But what would surprise you, and I think I could say this without there being an issue, is even though all of that happened, they still have respect for him because he didn't rat. He took his fucking medicine. A guy told me, an active guy told me, he says, you know what? There's a lot of things that none of us liked about the guy. I took a pinch like a man.
Yeah,
So,
that's saying something today.
And listen, the whole reason why he was, made into the Lucchese's anyway was to try to save his life.
The guy I was thinking of is Ignacio Antonori.
Okay.
That's a guy. And Jack Wall. These were guys like big mobsters down here in Florida, like in Tampa and like the West Coast and stuff like that. Like
right.
On the, that's who I was trying to remember his name. Do you know?
Yeah, he was dead by by 1940.
Antonori?
Yep, he died in 1940. So he was involved in the early form of what we would come to be known as the French Connection in the early days, because that started in the 1930s, and he was a big part of that in the 1930s.
He was in charge of the Bolita Rockets down here, if you know what that is.
Yeah,
the numbers, right?
Absolutely.
That was the original form of the Florida Lottery down here. That's what people forget. That's how people forget. That's how the lottery started down here in Florida, by the mob and stuff like that.
Yeah, and then it was taken over by Jose Battle for a long time, and then he brought him up here to New York and to New Jersey.
Yeah, he make like millions for the Genovese with like Tony Salerno
and for them to allow him to do that, they definitely were taking a huge kickback from that.
Jose Battle.
Charlie Wall. That's who I'm thinking of. Do you know who that is?
Who?
Charlie Wall.
Yeah.
One cool little thing I learned, Jeff, when I went down there to Galveston, and there's like the Maceo family that I told you about earlier. They have like their descendants, I guess you would call them, like the family now that's there. They have a restaurant. It's called Maceo's Spices or something like that. And they had pictures of back in the day and everything. They actually have a picture of Joe Bonanno when he was like on the lam, when he got kidnapped or whatever.
Right.
And he was going across the country, visiting different like syndicates or whatever. And apparently he went down there when he was like on the lam, and they have a picture of. I'll have to take a picture next time and send it to you. But I just thought that was a little cute little anecdote that I was like, oh, that's something to remember,
Yeah, Charlie Wall was, in the early days, he was one of the tougher guys around, and him and Antonori went to war for almost a decade. And then they fought the Traficantes as well for full control of, the Bolita racket. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. 100%. No, that's why I'm asking, why is it that people don't give enough respect to the guys down south? Like, is it because of New York? Like, New York gets all the pub?
I think a lot of it is the average mob genre people just don't know the history of it. They know the names, the John Gottis. They know Al Capone. But if you mention Johnny Roselli, 9 times out of 10 they're going to go, who? Like, people just don't, because New York gets all the press clippings. And that's
JFK
the way
guy, right, Jeff?
Huh?
That's the alleged JFK assassin, right?
Yeah. And I think that on one hand, guys that are lesser known, it benefited the shit out of them in the long run.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and you know, history walks past them, but you know, I think a lot of it's just because, well, if you look at it in terms of why does the New Jersey guys always get a bad rap, and New York guys called them the fucking farmers, because New Jersey was all farmland at one point, and they didn't take anybody in Jersey seriously, and that was one of the big gripes that Sam the plumber had with Carlo Gambino. Was, you know, here we are, we got our own turf, we got our own territory, and you're telling me what the fuck to do, and you're putting, you know, 5 other families in my area.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think it just comes down to like where you're located. Like, we never really hear much about Mickey Cohen, you know, who fucking ran LA like a fucking beast, you know, and when you hear Jack Dragna, there's really nothing positive to be said. But you know, there's a lot of guys in history that Clutch Hand Morello. Nobody says a lot about him, and I think a lot of it is because to be in the genre, you have to know kind of where everything, the entomology of it, and where it begins. And I think that the average, without being disrespectful to anybody, because there are some that are actually trying to learn. The problem is a lot of these content creators just don't know anything. Sammy Gravanos, the Joey Messinas, the fucking John Gottis, the Al Capones, the Johnny
Luciano.
You know, yeah, they just don't talk about like, when's the last time you came across a show or anybody talking about Johnny Torrio?
Nobody.
Yeah.
No.
Right.
Nobody.
And right, because these
5
people
points
are
game.
only focused on what's happened in the last, you know, 30 years. But if you really go back in time, to me, the history has always been more fascinating to me than the current shit, you know?
Yeah. I got a question for Johnny and Anthony, like kind of like what you're saying, certain people aren't talked about much. Prior to the Irishman movie or the book I Heard You Paint Houses, did you have any idea who Russell Buffalino was?
I knew of Russell because of Jeff used to talk to him, like
Right.
he did one of his shows about him. That's how I knew about Russell and stuff like that.
Right.
Yeah. But I just meant like on your own, like going way back, like whenever you started.
No, not really. At the max, I knew about Persico and all the people from the 70s and stuff like that, but not Buffalino and stuff like that. Russell.
Yeah.
Until
Jeff.
Jeff.
Yeah, guys. I heard the occasional, you know, story, like when you do your research and everything like that, you hear the occasional tad bits. But the one thing I would see him a lot was when I would see Jeff would have like a big episode about the Patriarchas, you know, and then kind of not hard to mention him when you're talking about the Patriarchas. So yeah, I would kind of just go research the Patriarchas, and then, you know, you kind of go into a rabbit hole, and then you end up.
And there was a whole entire Lebanese faction which nobody talks about in Providence.
And when I did my research on The Godfather, actually, I read somewhere where they actually said they modeled Vito after Buffalino, not the people always assumed they did. It was after Russell Buffalino, which surprised me when I heard that. Jeff?
Yeah. Well, Buffalino was the one who called all the shots on The Godfather, really. And, you know, there's stories of Marlon Brando eating with Buffalino, hanging out, having dinner together, Brando picking his brain. So, you know, I could see that.
Well, what nobody talks about, and what's really funny is Joe Colombo made this huge gripe about the word mafia being used, and that really wasn't. At the end of the day, the rest of the heads of the families didn't give a shit about that. What they wanted was control of the unions on that movie shoot.
Right.
That's all it was, and that's why they wanted to control Paramount.
Right.
You know, and that, you know, it really depends on who you talk to, but it's one of the things that I think is most important is understanding the politics of it. Like I always say all the time, a murder just isn't a murder. There's reasons for everything. Sometimes because a guy doesn't like a guy, but most of the time, you know, it's because somebody's talking out of school, doing something stupid. But once you move into, say, like the 1980s, a lot of that shit that happened here in New York was just because people didn't like people. You know, and it kind of became the Wild Wild West.
Yeah, I always kind of felt, Jeff, like The Godfather was kind of like a free public relations in a good and a bad way for the mob
Absolutely.
because it made them like, look all, well polished, family men and all this stuff. And then, it did bring all this attention, unwanted attention to him. So, it's like a good and a bad. But
Yeah, I
he
think it
definitely
worked both. It definitely worked both ways against them. It
one
was
thing
sort of a pro piece and then a negative piece at the same time.
one
Yeah,
thing, Jeff, that I did like was the book.
Didn't
The
they?
book was really good.
That's a question. I thought the Italian American foundation or whatever protested that movie originally. That they
No,
refused.
and that's what got Columbo killed because he wouldn't shut up.
Oh,
Jeff,
that
did
whole
Mickey
protest.
Cohen and Bug? Go ahead.
No, that's what I'm asking. So that protest is what got Joe killed?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yep, 100%. He wouldn't shut
Yeah,
up.
just a quick question. So that was because of the was that Carlo or was that
Oh, that was Carlo Gambino, 100%.
Carlo? Okay, yeah, because I remember you said that back when,
Yeah.
and I just and then you watch all this other stuff, and they want to point the finger at what's his name, Crazy Joe Gallo, and all this other stuff.
Well,
So, Johnny, you know what's very interesting about that murder with Joe Colombo and Gambino ordering it was the black guy's name that was the
Ronald
killer?
Johnson, I believe, or something like that.
Johnson. So,
Yep.
Yeah.
so Jeff could explain it better, but the Gambinos hooked this Johnson up. Hooked his mother up, paid off his house or something like that. And didn't this Johnson have connections somewhat loosely with them and doing things with them prior?
He was spotted in a Gambino social club 3 days before that. He was telling everybody his mom's house got paid off. He was getting ready to go on vacation. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, and that was entirely, first of all, there were a couple of things. Number one is Carlo only allowed him to become boss sort of as a favor for coming to him and letting him know that Joe Bonanno and Joe Magliocco were going to kill him. The second thing is Carlo thought, now I can control the Colombos because I put him in. And when Joe started bucking the system, basically saying, I'm going to do whatever the fuck I want, now you become a liability. And so you also have to take into consideration, look at the time period, right? At the time, Joey Gallo was fighting Joe Colombo because when Joey Gallo gets out, he meets with Joe Colombo, and Joe Colombo offered him something like $2,000. And he's like, no, fuck that. I want my rackets. And so Carlo was pushing them to keep fighting with him. He was behind every bit of that.
Yeah. Sometimes guys, I don't know, back in the day when they got murdered quick, easy, a lot of killings, how would Joe Colombo not listen to Gambino's warnings? Take it easy. Did he just think he wasn't going to do anything?
Well, no, because look at what he was doing. The perfect way to try to insulate yourself is ain't nobody going to kill me in front of 5,000 people in Columbus Square. Nobody's going to touch me. And he was wrong. He got touched.
Yeah, but I mean, it could have happened anywhere. Just overall, someone, the most powerful boss in the whole U.S. mob is telling you don't do this anymore, or else, kind of, so to speak. And where's your brain?
Did Joe get too big for his own britches? Is that what it was? His ego got the best of it.
100%. 100%.
Hey, Jeff, was it ever? And I mean, I don't mean to make this into a whole, a drama or anything, but was it ever really confirmed that Frank Tracy was there? Because I remember I was seeing a video about him or something saying that.
No, he was there. There's video footage of him being there. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I just
I want to bring back a subject up that you talked about recently in one of your live chats, Joe.
Sure.
The whole Joe Bonanno thing, setting up why is it that people underestimating how smart Joe was? Is it because he acted stupid, or was he actually really that dumb and stuff like that when it came to setting up the killing of trying to kill Gambino or try trying to set up the killing for Gambino. Why is it that they don't give him enough credit for being smart enough to do that?
Oh God.
Well, I think, from day one, when you go back to the Castellamare Wars, right? Joe was playing all sides against each other, refused to sort of see to one side or the other. So he was always playing options, and Joe often did things that would only benefit him. And that was really, truly a stupid thing to do. Oh,
bless you.
Thank you. I think it does it take balls to do that? Yeah, but it doesn't take brains, because he didn't think it through. I think if you even go back to him encroaching into Canada and claiming that to be his own, and then telling his own cousin Magadino to go fuck himself, at some point you got to give leeway. Everybody's got to be able to earn, and I think Bonanno was smart in terms of business. He was smart in terms of narcotics, but he allowed his impatience and his ego to override common sense.
It was more about common sense than stupidity.
I think to answer a question of why he doesn't get enough credit for making the attempt.
Well, he's a fucking rat. That's why.
Well, yeah, now, but because it didn't work.
Right.
If it worked and he didn't, if it worked and he went on to become one of the most powerful bosses and never became a rat, it would be one of the biggest stories of mob history.
Yeah,
but
because
it failed and he went on to become a rat,
right.
Which is why he doesn't get,
Right. And if you think about it, right, and let's pretend for a second he never pulls Joe Magliacco into this nonsense. He outlived every one of those fucking guys.
Yeah.
He would have had what he truly wanted if he had just been patient, but he wasn't. And listen, a lot of bosses were like that, right? He's not the only one. Anastasia wasn't patient. Look what he did. Gambino wasn't patient. Look what he did. So, I think it just comes down to, but at the same time, I will say this, but then the question will come up is, well, he was such a good gangster. How come he never got arrested? Because he was a rat. That's why he never took a serious pinch, because he was telling on everybody.
Right.
It seems like half of the bosses back then, half of those gangsters back then ratted on each other. It wasn't like
100%.
Like,
I kind of feel like all of they do. Like even the big drug lords nowadays, man, they all like El Chapo.
And this is why I don't get why people put Luciano on such. He was a rat. Like, I don't know why people put him. Like, he worked for the government. Didn't he get?
Not really.
I thought he worked for the government during World War II.
That's not ratting. That's serving your country.
No, I thought he got I thought he the FBI went to him, or the whatever agency was back then. The FBI didn't exist back then, right?
Right.
As much whatever agency went to him said, if you give us information and help us, you can get free from jail and stuff.
Yeah, but the information he gave was not against other mobsters or anything like that. The information he gave was trying, if that anything, rotted on the Nazis to prevent them from coming over, taking over our docks or whatever.
Right,
like
and he used his.
So that's a common misconception.
Yeah, it is, because the one thing he did was he used mob contacts back in Sicily for the Allied invasion. He used those contacts there through the government to help them hold the ports down there as well. And his agreement with them was, listen, we're going to protect the ports. If we see anybody, we're going to fucking kill them. And the government said, fine, absolutely, because that's what they wanted. So that's not really a rat move. Now, if you want to talk about when he gave up people's names that were drug dealing back in the day.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Right. Okay. But here's the thing, right? And I'm not saying that this is any less damaging, but you also have to look at, they were all doing that to each other. Okay. He wasn't going to court testifying. He wasn't going to court and testifying. Good example, Stephanie St. Clair, the godmother of Harlem. Okay. She was literally fighting with Dutch Schultz over the numbers rackets. Dutch Schultz didn't like her. She didn't like him. So what does she do? She dimes him out to the cops and then firebombs his establishment on top of it.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Right. And eventually Dutch Schultz says, you know what? Fuck this shit. Let me just get away from the situation. But if you look back historically, they would give tip-offs to cops and stuff like that to go after each other. But that was I think that listen, is it still a rat move? 100%. Okay. But I think there's a difference between this. There's a difference when person A and person B are having a turf war and one drops a dime on the other about a bootlegging supply coming in and a warehouse gets raided. Okay. There's that. And then there's, I don't want to go to fucking jail, so I'm telling on everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that. We often say like there's no tiers when it comes to ratting, but there is, I think, a distinction between exactly what you just said. Like diming someone out, not because you're saving yourself from going to prison, but it's just a strategic move to take a guy out. That's a little different than just, I'm afraid to go to jail, so, I'm going to rat.
Thank you, down Neck Newark. I appreciate it.
See, one thing that I would like to mention would be like the Genovese.
Dutch is a nut job, and he was scared of Stephanie St. Clair. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That he was she as crazy as he was?
I think she had balls. She had balls. It was her area. It was her turf. He was trying to encroach because he wanted to take over the numbers rackets, which ultimately, at the end of the day, funny note aside, actually ends up going to Tony Salerno. But she said, "Oh hell no!" So she'd go and dime him out to the cops. They would pull him in, and then she'd firebomb his buildings. Yeah.
Jeff, didn't they also do that to Vito Genovese,
100%.
Puerto Rican drug dealer?
100%.
Yeah, that's who Luciano and Gambino set up. Yeah.
Yeah,
and this is the common misconception that comes from the Godfather movies that these mobsters hated drug dealing. That's another thing I don't understand.
Carmine Galante for the win.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why it's a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I know that, but you understand that misconception gets perpetuated because of the movie, thinking that these guys don't care. Have a high moral standard about drug
them to think.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, Jeff.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. Like that stereotype or that line of thinking gets perpetuated because of the Godfather. That these guys had a high moral ground on drug dealing when it wasn't true.
Right. It's like the same theory that you can't quit the mafia. It's bullshit.
Jeff,
if you want out, you leave. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. How close was Carmine Galante and Joe Bonanno?
So I think they were insanely close. And the reason why I tell you that is because if you don't think that Joe Bonanno was not backing the bullshit that Galante was doing here in New York, you'd be out of your mind. He 100% for some reason or another backed Bonanno like he was God. And I obviously I wasn't there, so this is speculation at best. But when Galante starts killing all of the Gambino captains, I mean, that takes balls of steel. And I think that Joe Bonanno was behind a lot of that.
Yeah,
Joe Bonanno backed him.
Is it true or not that at the end when they wanted to take out Galante that they supposedly got his approval or something like that from Bonanno? Or was that all just BS?
No, I think it's just mainly BS.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they were like brothers. Why would Joe turn around and try to kill him? That makes no sense.
What truly is, and I think this will show sort of the impetus of who Joe Bonanno was. When Joe Bonanno staged his fake kidnapping because he was afraid he was going to get killed, he basically knows that there is a rival faction within his own family that's going to start shooting. And rather than stay in New York, he runs and lets his dopey son handle it. And like you, just as a man, you don't do that to your kid. You don't put your kid in harm's way. And he did. And even when all of that was over and done with and Joe Bonanno goes back out west, he still tries to start up mob shit in San Jose, California, and in LA, and they all get caught. He never stopped trying to get back into the life.
Too much of an ego. He wasn't going to let it go. That's a guy who could have making $10 million in a legit business, and he just wanted to be part of that. It was just too much ego, my opinion, for him.
His pride got the best of him and stuff like that.
I just think he couldn't stomach that he was a big shot in New York, and he had to come down to
and here's a question.
Wherever he was.
Here's a question I want to ask you guys, because I'm curious about your opinion. So if we know it to be true that at the end of the day, Joe Bonanno was playing all sides in the Maranzano and Masseria bullshit, and he wouldn't pick a side and kept playing against everybody, why on God's earth would Luciano reward him? I know the answer to this, but I'm curious as to what you guys think. Why on God's earth would Luciano allow him to become the head of his own family, knowing he can't be trusted?
Keep your enemies closer.
That could be one reason.
Control them.
I think Luciano thinks he can control Joe's like Luciano had a bigger ego than Bonanno. Let's be honest.
Yeah,
and he thought he can control Joe. That's an easy answer right there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I think.
It was a little of the devil that you know versus the devil that you don't know, and also the fact that, I mean, in that life, I don't think you trust anyone, let alone, a rival gangster. Right. But, it's better. I believe that he thought he knew Joe Bonanno more than, putting some other guy in there. And I felt that he would be able to predict a little bit more of his behavior.
Right.
That he's loyal to himself. And then, where his heart's going to be most of the time with his decisions.
Right. No, I agree with you. And believe it or not, I have an FBI report I have not unleashed yet, and it's big. You guys remember when Luciano got cut up, right?
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Oh, the knife attack?
Right.
Where he was left
on
for
the
dead?
beach
right.
or something?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. He gets kidnapped because the rumor was he owed money to drug dealers. You guys heard that story?
I vaguely remember.
All right. Well, so the basic crux of it was that he owed, and this is where the rumor began, that he said something to the cops about drug dealing. What actually happened was, according to what people say, is that he owed drug dealers in the area money, had welched on the money. They kidnapped him and cut him from his ear to his face, and then dropped him in Coney Island, pretty much to die, but he didn't. Right? That's sort of the story. But the paperwork that I have suggests that Joe Bonanno called the police and told them where to find Luciano that night.
No. You know what?
Don't tell me no. I got the paperwork.
No. I know that, but the rumor, the story that I keep on hearing is that Maranzano tried to set up that knife attack because he saw that Luciano was getting more power and stuff like that.
Okay, so. And you're not wrong about that, but who was on the Maranzano side of the fence?
Bonanno.
There you go.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
If it was Maranzano's guys, he would have been dead. I think the only reason he was alive is because it was the cops.
Yeah.
And they wanted to, to juice him for information.
Well, it's funny because the same cops that allegedly kidnapped Luciano and did that to him were the same cops standing outside the door of Maranzano's office when the hitman came in.
So, yeah, they weren't on the tape, were they?
Nah, not at all. It's like Abe Rellis. How does Abe Rellis fall out of a window 12 stories or 6 stories or whatever?
Jeff, I just kind of always found it funny, like how they made him, that he was, obsessed with like the Roman Empire, and everything, and he dies just like Julius Caesar.
Yep, 100%.
Getting stabbed in the back.
Yep.
Basically.
Yeah, betrayed by his own guys.
100%.
How close, like, what was the relationship, if you know, of Mickey Cohen and Bugsy Siegel when they're both in California?
Oh, it was over for Siegel. The minute Cohen is there, it's over for Siegel.
Oh, really?
Oh, over immediately. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. If you
People
guys
always say Mickey is more of a nut job than Dutch Schultz. Is that an exaggeration or is that actually true?
No, he was Dutch Schultz was a guy who wanted to kill Thomas Dewey, and he had every reason to want to do that, right? There's a difference between being so upset that you want to do it versus somebody that says, I don't give a fuck, I'm just gonna do it.
And that's
the difference.
Yeah.
And that was Mickey Cohen, basically. Mickey was
absolutely.
Mickey would have done
those
it.
guys, Jeff. Do you think
Do what?
Meyer was still the more influential between Meyer, Lansky, Dutch Schultz, Bugsy Siegel, Mickey Cohen?
I think historically, if you were going to rank it like 1 to 5, the most powerful mob guys, not by anything other than just being in organized crime, Meyer Lansky was number 2 on every list. Because he had the power to have guys killed.
Yep.
Rothstein was number 1, right? You would have Rothstein number 1.
Rothstein?
I think he might be thinking just Jewish guys. I don't think Rothstein. Rothstein was smart. But
Rothstein, nah. He was integral because of money.
Right, Johnny.
Meyer Lansky was feared.
Well, Jeff, let me ask you this. So, like, when Cohen went out to L.A., Bugsy was done. Didn't Bugsy at first have the backing of Meyer Lansky in Luciano?
No. Sort of. Okay, so
in the beginning,
the reason why he was sent there to begin with was to look over the racing wire. That was the big thing. We want you to set up the racing wire. But what Siegel starts to do is encroach on Dragna's turf. And because Dragna was kind of for a lack of better terms, wasn't a tough guy.
Right.
He just kind of allowed it. And it even got worse because once Siegel started stealing money from the mob and there were all of these other sort of issues that came out, Cohen was like the complete opposite of look, Siegel was a tough guy. There's no way around that. He was a killer, right?
Right.
Cohen was a different guy because Cohen had the brains to earn a ton of fucking money.
So when Cohen went out there, was he backed by Lansky and other guys at all?
Everybody. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So people hated Bugsy.
Yeah, they backed Cohen over their own guy, over Dragon. Right, it's an interesting time period.
Well, Jeff, when it comes to the Mickey, not Mickey Cohen, the Bugsy Siegel thing, who do you in your honest opinion, who do you think killed him? Like, people say it was his own girlfriend, Virginia Hill, that set up the hit. Do you believe that, or do you have another theory on that?
It's Frankie Carbo that killed him, and it was set up by Virginia Hill. Where
do you think Virginia was actually involved in it? I
just think that she necessitated what time he was at home, where he would be, where he sits, and stuff like that. Absolutely.
But Carbo, the actual shooter is, you believe, Carbo?
Oh yeah, 100%. 100%.
Because there's a lot of rumors that there's other theories that it wasn't Carbo. It was someone like Carbo wasn't. The theories of some of these theories say that this guy was a military sniper in the military, and Carbo didn't really have military training and stuff like that.
You don't need military training when you stand a foot outside somebody's window and use an M1 against them, because you're spraying the whole room.
No, because they said the guy was at a distance. Like, these theories say the guy wasn't as close as the original, like what you say with Carbo. They say the guy was at a distance and he shot him from a distance, not that up close and stuff like that. That's what these theories say.
I mean, an M1 carbine is it's a 30 caliber, automatic. It's an automatic carbine, so it's a machine gun. You don't see. So here's the thing, and this is why this is how I can show you that's not accurate. Okay, if you're using a machine gun, you're spraying everyone. If you're using an M1 carbine, it's shot after shot,
reload. There you go.
After shot, reload. This was like. I think there was something like, and listen, this may not be completely 100% accurate, but there was something like 70 shell casings. Like this was a machine gun that was used outside of a window.
With like a Tommy gun. almost.
Yeah, similar to that, a little different, but with a sniper rifle, you shoot, reload, shoot again, and this guy was lit up all over his body because listen, and here's another thing. If you're going to use a sniper rifle, why you got to shoot him like 12 times?
That's what I don't understand. Where that theory came that the guy was a sniper for the military.
Nah, absolutely not.
Can you imagine being Bugsy Siegel's neighbor, seeing fucking a guy standing outside his fucking outside his house, blowing him away?
Yeah, no, it was a machine gun. I mean, and that's the best way to do it because if just think in terms of killing a guy, you don't want to have to fire, reload, aim, steady again, shoot again. You'd have to be close because if you don't hit him on the first shot, he's going to get up and start running around the room like his hair is on fire.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but some of these theories before you just cleared it up with me, I always believed it was a sniper, military sniper.
There you go. That's what he was shot with.
Wow.
Oh,
Jeff,
okay,
I have a question for you. Between Albert Anastasia and Carlo Gambino, I remember you saying there was always animosity between them. Was there like a specific thing that would because I would see videos that, Anastasia would always abuse Carlo or that he'd always tax him or that.
A lot of it was just like, I'm the fucking boss. What do you know? Kind of like just verbally abusive, and I think that was, I think a lot of it. And I think towards the end of Anastasia's life, I think he overextended himself, otherwise I don't think they would have killed him. But the minute he started stepping on Meyer Lansky's toes and telling him what to do, that becomes kind of a problem. That, and then you have the whole Willie Sutton thing where Arnold Schuster gets killed, for squealing on a guy. I mean, that's
fucking funny.
I think ultimately, I don't think killing Schuster is what got him in the most trouble with the guys, as we call them. What got him in trouble was the fact that he told Lansky, "You're kicking up to me," and when Lansky basically told him to go fuck himself, he opens up shop down in the Caribbean to compete against him. Like that's a big problem.
That was before the Traficantes got involved, right?
Right. Correct.
In Cuba.
Yeah. Hey, did you guys, Johnny and Anthony, listen to Jeff's show about the recent paperwork he got on the Anastasia hit from a couple of weeks back or whatever it was? Really interesting.
I watched parts of it, but I had to spend time with family and I couldn't finish it. It was interesting.
The recent one I did not get to see it, but I remember Jeff had this show about Albert Anastasia and that whole the hit on him and everything a few years ago. And I would just I'd always listen to it and everything. But one cool thing that I always remembered Jeff would always talk about with that would be that he would mention the group of killers that Anastasia had, Murdo Inc. and all the other guys underneath him that kind of made him untouchable for a good amount of time. That if you mess with Anastasia, you had his whole camp coming after you.
Yeah, you weren't just going to deal with one guy. You're dealing with hundreds.
Yeah, and they weren't necessarily loyal to the families, if not to him.
No, guys that were in Murder Inc. were loyal to the paycheck.
We talk about Anastasia, but do you guys think Costello gets way too much credit than he deserves?
No, I don't think he gets enough. I don't think he gets enough.
He had all the connections.
He seemed more like a racketeer, like a smart, influential, businessman compared to a thug or something, but absolutely one of the smartest
his political
guys.
Contacts were everything to them. Everything to them. I mean,
that's why they call him the Godfather, the ambassador of the underworld, right?
I think you take away. See, here's the other thing, and Johnny brought up a great point: is that he was a racketeer. I mean, he controlled the Coast Guard. Name me another guy who controlled the Coast Guard. You can't name me one.
Yeah.
And
that's where he had ties with old man Kennedy with that stuff, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't know he was friends with old man Kennedy.
Kept him around a long time.
Yeah, him and Kennedy
Well,
go
when
way
old man,
back.
yeah.
In
When
fact,
old man Kennedy was trying to take over everything, part of it was something with the Coast Guard, I guess, with prohibition and stuff. I don't know. And
they needed the Coast Guard to look the other way, and Frank Costello was the guy that put money in their pockets. And then when he couldn't do that, he was able to, through Kennedy, because Kennedy ran many shipyards, he was able to take ships and make them look like Coast Guard freighters, so that other Coast Guard ships would just say, "Oh, they're already here. We're going to go the other way."
No, the reason why I brought up Rothstein earlier is because people say just because he didn't physically get involved, he ordered a ton of killings. He was a violent guy, but he didn't do it physically, get his hands dirty.
Right.
Rothstein actually ordered a whole bunch of hits, but he didn't get his own hands dirty.
Right. Well, anything that he needed done, it would have been to benefit the mob. It would have been to benefit the pockets of other people. Otherwise, they're not going to green light that.
And we have to thank Rothstein for the modern. People give credit to Luciano, but the idea came from Rothstein. That money, all those things that Luciano was doing came from Rothstein.
Yeah, that's how Luciano learned the rackets. Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
Jeff, I also have a question. Now we're speaking about Luciano.
Sure.
Is there any truth to the fact that back when because I'm sure you guys have seen the Boardwalk Empire show, and all that like back in, I think it was pre-prohibition, that
Right.
they had that big meeting that
Right.
sort of formed the first term of a conspiracy, like a nationwide conspiracy.
Right.
Was that the first
Probably
meeting or something that you see all these people come together?
It would have been the 1929 Atlantic City Conference. Yeah. Was it 1929? I could be wrong. Let me look. I think it's 1929. Let me look it up just because I
think it was 1931.
Well, we'll find out here in a second.
Yeah. You're probably right. It probably was 31. Nope, 1929.
Okay, you're right. I thought I was going to be right.
Yeah, it would have been 1929. And believe it or not, I have not watched Boardwalk Empire. I tried to watch one episode of it and just couldn't do it, but it's on my TV, and I'm going to watch the first 2 episodes tonight.
I like it.
That way, Chris Gorky can say, "See, I told you it wasn't that bad."
It's a good show, Jeff. But honestly, if there's a show that I would recommend to you, since you're all about authentic, mob shows and everything, is the Gomorrah show. Even
that's
though
what
it's
everybody.
Italian,
that's what everybody tells me. They say that's the
Jeff,
best thing ever.
After seeing you for 5 to 6 years now, I just know a part of you would go crazy about that show. I don't know why. Just call it a hitch. I don't know.
Yeah,
I just think you'd love that show.
I was saying
he'll go crazy. He'll go crazy, but not in the way you think.
Well, the funny thing is I've always been like the big Sopranos guy. What a great show. And then as I watched the original series when it came out, right? And I haven't watched it since what they ended in 2004, 2006, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
So then I go back and I'm watching the whole series again and just falling in love with the characters again. And then it dawns on me. I'm like, Tony Soprano's a fucking rat. I can't ever watch the show again. I can't do it. I can't do it. Even though he was like giving up information about terrorism, but he was also giving up information about other guys.
And how he got away with going to my question is, no real mob person is allowed to go to a psychiatrist like that. Really?
You'd be surprised how many do.
I mean,
it's kind of funny how in the show that they had, Agent Dwight or something like that, that he was happy when Phil Leotardo got killed and everything.
Yeah.
And his partner just looks at him like, you're on our side here, bud. You're not supposed to be happy, Well,
it was funny because they stole Linda Vecchio's line in the very end of The Sopranos. It's the last fucking episode right after Phil Leotardo gets killed. The FBI agent screams, "We're going to win this thing." And that was like a direct reference to Linda Vecchio, who said that when Greg Scarpa killed a bunch of people.
Gotcha, yeah.
That's another question I wanted to ask you, Jeff. Is the story about I watched the mob versus the KKK thing on the History Channel, is that exaggerated just a little bit? That he actually stuck a gun in that KKK member's mouth?
He was never in Mississippi ever.
He wasn't.
All of it's bullshit. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've always wondered if that any of that was true.
No, and let me tell you why it's not true. Number one, okay, most importantly, there would have been 1,000 FBI files on that. Okay, number one. Number two, his girlfriend, he told her a lot of crazy stories, okay, to back up what he was telling the FBI. And that's a story he told her. And then she regurgitated it on the stand and perjured herself time and time and time again, because the FBI said that's not true. He never had anything to do with this. It was actually state troopers that were able to sort of talk to Klansmen and sort of get that figured out. Greg Scarpa had nothing to do with it, but it sounded like a good bullshit story to tell his girlfriend to impress her. And when she repeated it on the stand, as you know, anything you say, they're going to combat that, and they're going to say there's no evidence this ever happened. It's a fucking lie.
So Scarpa had a big ego and would brag about stuff that he didn't actually do.
Correct. He told the FBI he was a captain in 1960, but he was an inducted member in 1958. So he went from an associate to a captain in 2 years. No,
he's a real go-getter.
Yeah. He was a real go-getter. In fact, he couldn't earn any money on his own, so the FBI kept paying him money to get promoted.
Yeah, Jeff, I think the first time I ever heard of Greg Scarpa was when I remember I was like a young guy, and I remember seeing that documentary about the Bath Avenue crew or something, and how he had a shootout or something with one of the guys.
Well, the Bath Avenue crew has been overhyped for a very, very long time. None
of the guys were made, right, Jeff?
None of them were. One of them, and that's the thing. They were used to do certain things, and I think was it Paulie Galino was really the tough guy of that group, but they were not. There's been a lot of hype about that. I mean, listen, they're still dangerous guys. Don't get me wrong, but in reality, they were a bunch of fringe guys who were used to serve a purpose. Yeah, they were drug dealers. They broke into homes and shit like that,
Yeah, that's like that the Chris Pacello guy
that jerk off.
Like,
Christopher. His real name is Ludwigson, not Pacello. Yeah. Ludwigson. And listen, believe it or not, he was the smartest one of the bunch. He was the smartest one of the bunch. Had all the contacts, but look at
celebrities and everything now too, Jeff. Yes. Those clubs, those gyms, and everything he has in Miami.
So Jeff, I have a question. The movie Donnie Brasco, the guy, who's the guy that he talks to in the diner? Is that based off a real mobster, or was that a fictional character for that movie? Like the one
his handler.
Yeah, the handler guy.
That's a FBI agent, isn't it?
Yeah, that would have been Joe Pistone talking to his handlers. Yeah, but Pistone.
No. There was the guy who got him made into there was a guy who he would talk to all the time, like a
talking about Lefty.
Yeah, Lefty.
Yeah, Lefty was a real guy, but Lefty was not nearly as
powerful as they made him out to be in that movie.
He was not nearly as destitute as they made him in that film, and he was a very dangerous fucking guy. And believe it or not, Joe Pistone barely knew Lefty. That's not how he got introduced. That part of the story was all bullshit.
Right, Jeff?
Yeah, it was through Sonny Black. Absolutely.
Why do they say Lefty in the movie then? Why don't they mention?
Because it's Hollywood and they distort everything.
Yeah. I mean, they still
I kind of think since they made it, or not made, since they got
it's a better story.
To do his role. They kind of, had to make
one thing they left out in that movie was wasn't Donnie Brasco the first guy he was with was Anthony Mirror, right? I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
Well, he tried getting into the Columbos first, and they would have nothing to do with him because they smelled a rat from day one. And he ends up in the Bonanos just from sitting around. Guys looking to make a fucking buck. But one of the things that's funny about Pistone is he admits years later he broke all kinds of laws that he wasn't supposed to break. And when you brag about that shit, it's like, okay, well, your job as an agent is to infiltrate organized crime. Your job as an agent is to get wiretaps, which whatever. But your job is not to commit crimes and take kickbacks and money. And he did.
Jeff,
So
I think he was lucky in the fact that when he was, an agent and everything, technology wasn't that very great.
100%.
So he could manipulate the narrative.
100%.
Yeah. Now, and what Joe and in the Jeff, I keep on saying Joe. I don't know why. He said that Mira, he had a falling out. Years later, he actually tells a story that the reason why he had a falling out with Mira is because Mira got in a argument with a guy taking too long in a phone booth. Is that an exaggeration, or did that?
No, probably not, because Anthony Mira was a psychopath.
Oh, yeah. That was true. You think Mira actually did that?
Listen, Anthony Mira was a fucking nut. Beyond fucking nut. Absolutely.
So that could be true, that Mira actually almost choked some guy, a poor innocent bystander in front of his family for just taking too long in a phone booth.
Oh no, absolutely. Anthony Mira probably had multiple personality disorders. He was a real nut.
How he got to bosses, with how nuts that guy is, how did he get so much power? Like, were people scared of him or something? That's why he got.
It was nuts.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying.
Jeff, that'll always get me is the Nicky Scarfo story about the horse.
That
shows you how much of a complete nut the guy was.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, with Anthony Mira, for example, right? So the only reason why they kept Anthony Mira around was because he kicked up a ton of fucking money. If he doesn't, they'd have killed him because he was a fucking nut. He wouldn't hesitate.
They did eventually kill him, right?
Anthony Mira, yeah.
I think his cousin did it.
But a lot of it, just reckless shit. I mean, look, even the mob has standards when it comes to like murder and mayhem. If you're doing it, because let me tell you that. Let me put it this way: a Maid guy once told me this. He goes, "Listen, Jeff, here's the reality of life. Anybody that's killed over 2 people has serious fucking mental problems. So you're allowed 2, but anything more than that makes you a fucking nut."
Roy DeMeo was probably a lunatic then.
Yeah, absolutely. But then again, let's be realistic. How many people did Roy DeMeo kill by himself?
Not a lot.
No,
that's true.
Not a lot. Not one.
He killed it within a group of people, not by himself.
No, he used the crew to do the murderings for him.
The Gemini.
I mean, granted, he took part in the dismemberments and crazy shit like that. That makes you a little sick. But that's the thing. A lot of, like, Sammy Gravano, likes to brag about his 19 murders, but he only admitted to actually shooting the trigger once.
These guys, some of these mob guys, we have to look into see. I understand there's not going to be any paperwork to prove that they're telling the truth on how many people they actually killed, instead of it being an exaggeration. I don't think there's ever going to be that, Joe, right? Jeff, right?
Right.
That's why sometimes it's so hard as a layman person not to believe some of these mobsters when they say they killed 20, 30 people, when in reality they might have only killed 2 or 3 people.
Right.
Yeah, I just think it's kind of like a redundant, a true killer or even a former killer. He's not going to tell you, he killed the exact number. I just feel like when it's BS, they're going to be, exaggerating. They're going to be bragging about it. They're going to.
Right. Well, you look at a guy like Jacob Shapiro, who probably killed 40 people by himself. You don't hear much about him.
Exactly.
Or Charlie the Bug Workman. Nobody ever says much about him, but he was prolific at what he did.
The perfect example of that is Iceman, the guy who they interviewed, the serial killer. Him.
That guy's
what I'm talking about?
I think.
Iceman or whatever. The guy who said he had connections with the mob or whatever. He was a hitman that
he was a serial killer.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
He wasn't involved in the mob at all. The only mob shit he was ever involved in was Roy DeMeo shook him down. That was it. That was the only thing that they even had in common. Roy heard that he was running a porn lab, found out about it, so they started shaking him down to take the films. He never worked for Roy DeMeo, never worked for any gangster ever.
So that guy was talking a lot of, like, none of that stuff he says in those interviews are true, basically.
No, it's all bullshit, but the guy's a sick individual.
I think he was a legit, psychopath or sociopath, or a bunch of those guys, they're great liars. They're great,
Listen,
they can come up with stories.
When you talk about guys with egos and stuff, once Richard Kuklinski was arrested, knew he was done, never getting out of jail, he wanted to make himself as popular as he could possibly be and insert himself in every big murder there was. Hoffa, anything. I don't think there's a bigger, as far as a guy involved with killing people, a guy more full of shit than Richard Kuklinski.
I think there's one out there.
Well, there's
Anthony
guys out
Raimondi.
there that are bullshit, but I mean that guy really went overboard with. Oh, who are you talking about, Raimondi?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, he has over 300 in Vietnam.
Listen.
Yeah, no, that's.
You know what's funny about that guy is you can look up military records. The guy was never in the military.
Stolen valor.
Yeah,
the guy was apparently going to clip the Pope.
Yeah, he was involved in whacking the Pope. Yeah, big tough.
Who the hell was Raimondi?
Oh God, you need to look. You want to laugh and have a good time? Just look up Anthony Luciano Raimondi. He claims to be related to Lucky Luciano, which is hilarious. But it's funny because John A. goes, "Yeah, my dad used to hang out with Lucky Luciano's brother Charlie. He never had a fucking brother. He never had a fucking brother." How can your father hang out with a motherfucker's brother when he doesn't even have a brother?
Yeah. I know how. I know how.
Did you hear?
People could be seated at a wedding at alleged guys' weddings went to with their daughter when they never had a daughter.
Right. Did you hear? Chris? Did you hear the latest one? A-Light is now saying he got the contract on Joey Merlino's life. You believe that shit?
I heard years ago. Like A-Light told a story about Merlino and how he saved his life somehow. Listen, you said it best at the beginning of the show. You got a real stand-up guy in Joey, did the right thing, never ratted. Now all these fucking rats that want to make money are trying to attach themselves to him. So now they'll come and have stories about him.
So Panisi said, "Oh, I had dinner with him and all the guys." I was told. We never even heard of this guy's name until he went on YouTube. Okay, you've got Dominic Sikawi also lying and saying shit that isn't fucking fucking accurate whatsoever. What all they're doing is piggybacking now because they see the views he's getting and now they want to insert themselves.
Man, he's the only one that's a legit stand-up guy. That's not a rat. Did the right thing, and all they want to do is latch on to him somehow.
No, I agree.
All it fucking is, man.
I agree. And listen, there's a story that I could tell you that would completely blow away some of the shit that guy spews about Joey, but I can't, but it's I can tell you this much. I'll tell you an interesting story. You guys want to hear a really funny story?
What?
So A-Light was on the Jersey Shore selling his book, right? And somebody walks by, and it's a female, and she sees the guy hawking his book. She knows he's a rat immediately, and she just mentions her husband's name. He goes, "Oh, that guy, I used to abuse the shit out of him. He's nobody." And she says, "Well, he's my husband. Stay here. I'm going to go call him." Within 3 minutes, he packed up his shit and was running. Big tough guy.
Jeff, I remember hearing about John Elite getting chased, or he jumped in in a sewer or something.
That's what they say.
Club.
Yeah, called 911. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, there's a lot of stories that get made up, but here's my thing, right? And this is my rule of thumb that goes with every informant. Why is it They can't just say, listen, I did XYZ and I didn't want to go to jail. It is what it is. Okay, fine. At least you're telling the truth. But they always try to make themselves out to be something that they weren't.
Yeah. I bet
Like-
you a lot of these guys that when they rat it and then came on YouTube trying to tell their stories in the very beginning, not now, but in the beginning, they probably had no idea they were going to get challenged by people. You know what I mean? They probably just thought everybody was just going to
because
take their word.
their go-to is how would you know? You weren't there. How would you know? You don't know what conversations I had. And it's like, no, but what you testified to, what you told the FBI, it couldn't be corroborated by anybody.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and I don't think, with the exception of Gravano, and I'm not defending him because fuck him, but with the exception of Gravano, look at what he's doing now. He's inventing shit that never happened. This is what they do.
Yeah.
Jeff, I think
You think a guy
one
like
of the
that wouldn't have to
biggest,
spend stuff.
Yeah.
one of the biggest BS things that I knew was instantly, all crap, was John Elite saying he was like boxing with like Fidel Castro's sons or something
come on.
like that. Yeah,
Come on.
like
Yeah, and he caved
Oh.
cell phones up his ass.
yeah, that he survived Brazilian prisons, and he was John Rambo in there, and
That's the problem is like, I think that people really enjoy the stories, and I get it. Like if you're just a fan of that type of stuff, and there's this guy and he's telling all of these stories, the average person doesn't say, wait a second, that doesn't add up. Let me go look something up. They don't do it. So then when somebody like me who comes along a decade ago and starts ripping them to shreds,
That's what I'm saying. They weren't ready for that.
they were not prepared for that. And then they thought they could, make threats and scare and do this intimidation bullshit with me. And that's why I have a gripe with Anastasia. And I'm not going to get into that, but he allowed an informant to basically threaten the life of a sibling of mine. And that's just unacceptable on every fucking level. And even if you're an author and you cover organized crime, even though Anastasia is a rat-loving fuck, just like Jerry Capisci is, at some point you have to do due diligence as a journalist or an author to say that's just unacceptable. You can't do that to people, but they don't care.
Jeff, this is a question I've been wanting to ask you. Is there a mobster, a hang around guy, or one of these couples that the perception from the general public is different from the person you actually met when you first met them?
100%.
No, is there one guy
100%.
you can mention? Or no, you can't say names.
I'm trying to think of, like, give me a second here, because I'm trying to figure out how to word this to not get myself in a fucking jam. Let me just say it this way, okay? There are people that make, okay, people are not making allegations, but they're reporting allegations that are false. And there was a content creator that, okay, let me give you 2 reference points. Okay, here's the first reference point. Jeff Nadeau, who I can't stand, said that Ron Previty was a real tough guy and a real gangster. Ron Previty was none of those fucking things. Okay. So that tells you the delusion. And anybody that ever met Ron Previty said he was a fucking jerk off, was nothing. Okay. But if you read the articles and listen to bullshit, you would think, holy Christ, this guy was a real big, serious guy. And he really wasn't. Okay. Then there's the flip side of that, where people will post videos of allegations, and they'll name a motherfucker who may or may not be in real life one of the most serious motherfuckers you're ever going to meet and doesn't play around, but you're putting a guy in something he had nothing to do with. And I think also that provides a narrative and a stereotype against somebody, that they're like some guy who just gets angry at the weather and grabs a burner and goes outside and starts killing people. Like with even serious guys that may or may not have been ever accused of murder and mayhem and all of that, there is a whole nother side to that character. There's a whole nother side to that human being. You know who you're dealing with. You know, at the end of the day, you can only push your limits with that motherfucker, but so far. But there's a flip side to that, where they're the most giving, most honest, most sincere people. But where the line is. And if you step over that line, there's going to be a problem. And I have found in the course of my life, because I have been with and sat next to people who have done some very fucked up shit, right? But I also find it's odd because I'll give you a good example, because I'm trying to stay away from a certain topic. There's a guy I know who is the most genuine, loyal motherfucker I've ever met in my life. And he said to me one night, and listen, he's been accused of certain things, whatever. He says to me, Jeff, you know what it is about life? I love babies and I love puppies. Everybody else can get fucked. And that's how they see it. And I know people that have been accused of a dozen murders or more, and then they post the cutest photos of them with their dog sledding down a hill, and they're treating the dog like it's a little like it's a child. So
the perfect example is the guy we talked about. His perception that he's is he different from the guy that we were talking about, where he's crazy, a nutso? Is he different from the actual, in his private life? Was he completely different? The guy we were talking about that he attacked a regular civilian in the phone booth, whatever that the
he was a walking psychopath in every stretch of the imagination in everyday life. There was no other side to that.
He wasn't a nice guy.
No,
away from that, basically.
No, guys tried to stay the fuck away from him because he was a nut.
Okay, I wasn't sure if he was one of the people that was different from the away from all that stuff. Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was. What you see is what you get, and the highlight reel, if you want to call it that, or the headlines that the guy got. That's the way he was in real life. He was a prick to everybody.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was just if he was different with his family and stuff like that. Like if he treated his family different from
he was brutal with them too. Brutal with them.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
His cousin killed him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did some real sick shit to prostitutes and stuff like that. Like he was a real fucking animal, this guy.
Yeah, no, I'm surprised that guy did with the rumors that go around about this guy. I'm surprised he didn't become a serial killer or something with how crazy he was.
He probably was.
They say that you kill over 3 people, that's what you are. You know?
Jeff, what about Nicky Santoro? Was he anything close to what they portrayed him in the movie?
Are you talking about Casino?
Yeah, with Joe Pesci's.
Yeah, he would have been playing Tony Spilotro. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah,
Tony was a psychopath too.
Oh yeah. He just, I think I didn't know him obviously, but I just think he had no compunction about killing somebody to get a point across. But once again, it's a situation where you send a guy to Vegas to do a certain job, and he announces himself as the boss of Vegas, and then begins to do whatever the fuck he wants, and then it becomes a problem.
Was Lefty a violent person? The guy that Jack Nicklaus plays in Casino?
Robert De Niro, I mean.
Robert De Niro?
Robert De Niro played Ace Rothstein, and he would have been...
he was an informant.
Yeah, he was a rat.
Oh, Rothstein?
Not Ross. Fucking Chris, help
Rosenthal.
Yeah, Lefty Rosenthal was a rat. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He was based off of...
He just did a show on him. His paid platform, he has a bunch of rat files, and he did one on Rosenthal. That's really interesting.
That's why he got that car bomb, wasn't it, Jeff?
Yep. That's why they tried to kill him. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And there's a funny side note to that Sam Giancana was banging Tony Spilatro's wife.
Yeah.
What comes around,
how Sam got away with that is beyond me. How did Sam get away with?
He didn't. He didn't.
He didn't.
He got whacked in Mexico.
He got killed. He got killed.
No, no, that's what I'm saying. It took a long time. Whose wife was he sleeping with again?
Tony Spilatro's.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Did it take Tony a long time to figure out who who was sleeping with his wife, or he found out right away?
No, I don't think it took long because, listen, in that lifestyle, there's a lot of gossip and there's no such thing as a secret. And I'm sure it got back to him. But then again, he was having kind of his own kind of thing with Frank Lefty Rosenthal's wife himself. So,
so
crazy, man. Crazy.
So Tony had no right. He was doing the same thing. He shouldn't have got mad.
Pretty much, he was doing the same exact thing. Absolutely.
I don't know why Tony had Tony had no moral high ground in that. Then, really?
No, he wouldn't have. Not at all.
It's kind of funny just to mention morals with him.
Yeah, right. Hey guys, listen, we're over 2 hours here.
Yeah.
I gotta roll.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me on our show, Jeff. Have a good night.
All right, buddy.
All right. Be good. Hey, it's nice meeting you guys.
Nice meeting.
Same to you, man.
All right.
All right. Let me just do this. All right, so that's going to be it for tonight. We're just about over 2 minutes. Thank you for all the super chats. For those of you that are interested in the meet and greet, reach out to us at mobtalkradioshow@gmail.com, and we will begin accepting payments on Tuesday. You will be getting an email if you're on the list. With all that being said, have a great week, guys, and we will see all of you later on this week for another live stream.